The Liard River, Hot Springs. Provincial Park in British Columbia, Canada, is a tranquil oasis nestled within the boreal forest. Known for its inviting hot pools, it draws locals and travelers alike seeking to relax in its steaming waters. But on August 14, 1997, this serene destination became the site of a horrifying attack that would forever alter its peaceful reputation. Patty McConnell, a Texan on a road trip to Alaska with her 2 children, decided to stop at the hot springs for a much-needed break. The family set off to explore the park, with Patty and her 13-year-old son, Kelly, venturing down a boardwalk and up a set of stairs to find a quieter pool away from the crowds. The serenity of the moment was shattered when a rustling sound emerged from the dense underbrush. Patty turned and came face to face with a large black bear. Before she could react, the bear charged, tackling Patty and launching a brutal attack. Her screams pierced the air as she fought for her life. Kelly, despite his young age and slight build, showed extraordinary bravery. He grabbed a tree branch and struck the bear repeatedly, even kicking it in the face in a desperate attempt to save his mother. The bear, however, turned its rage on him, clawing him across the neck and lifting him by the waist before hurling him to the ground. The commotion caught the attention of bystanders, including a man named Ray Kitchen. Without hesitation, Kitchen rushed to the scene to intervene. He too attempted to fend off the bear, but the animal's strength was overwhelming. In the struggle, the bear struck Kitchen, sending both of them tumbling through a railing and down a hillside. Tragically, the bear mauled Kitchen to death, delivering fatal wounds to his neck. As the attack unfolded, panic spread among other visitors. A second man attempted to intervene and was critically injured in the process. It wasn't until 2 bystanders arrived with hunting rifles that the rampage ended. They shot and killed the bear, but by then, the damage was devastating. Patty McConnell succumbed to her injuries, her courageous effort to protect her son marking her final moments. Kelly, though gravely injured, miraculously survived. His determination to fight off the bear and his incredible resilience became a testament to his bravery. The tragic loss of Ray Kitchen, who selflessly risked his life to help others, left a profound impact on everyone who learned of the incident. The attack shocked the region, prompting discussions about wildlife safety and the unpredictable dangers of nature. The black bear, later determined to be emaciated and unusually aggressive, likely attacked out of desperation, driven by hunger or illness. For many, the event served as a reminder of the delicate balance between humans and wildlife, especially in remote and wild settings. Today, the Liard River Hot Springs remains a popular destination, but the memory of that tragic day lingers. Signs warning visitors of bear activity are a constant presence, urging caution and vigilance. The African wilderness is both breathtaking and merciless, a place where nature reigns supreme and danger lurks just beneath the surface, sometimes quite literally. For Dr. Richard K. Root, a man who had dedicated his life to saving others, the wild had something far more sinister in store. A world-renowned infectious disease specialist, mentor, and humanitarian, Dr. Root had traveled across the globe, tackling the deadliest bacterial infections and mentoring the next generation of medical professionals. But on a seemingly peaceful day in 2006, his extraordinary journey came to a horrifying and violent end. Dragged into the depths of the Limpopo River by a giant prehistoric predator. At 68 years old, Dr. Root was far from retired. His passion for medicine and education remained as strong as ever. When the University of Pennsylvania's Infectious Disease Department extended an invitation for him to help train doctors in Botswana, he didn't hesitate. The project was crucial. Botswana was in the grips of a devastating HIV/AIDS epidemic, and Dr. Root was there to help equip local medical teams with the knowledge and skills to combat it. His assignment would last 2 months, and in that short time, he was determined to make a difference. But amidst the hard work, there was also time to take in the stunning beauty of the region, a land teeming with wildlife, ancient landscapes, and vast rivers where predators still ruled. And so, on March 19, 2006, Dr. Root and his wife, Rita, embarked on what was meant to be a simple, guided canoe safari through the Tule Nature Reserve, a decision that would become his last. The canoes drifted peacefully down the Limpopo River, the soft murmur of water mixing with the distant calls of birds and the rustling of leaves in the towering riverbanks. The sun was bright overhead, glistening off the surface, painting the illusion of a serene and tranquil moment. But beneath the murky depths, something was watching, waiting. Dr. Root sat in the lead canoe, accompanied by a seasoned guide, a man who had likely seen his fair share of Africa's dangers. His wife, Rita, followed in another canoe, capturing moments of their adventure on camera. The photos she took just minutes before the attack showed Dr. Root at ease, completely unaware that he was about to become prey. Then the river erupted. A monstrous crocodile, measuring between 13 and 15 feet, launched itself from the depths. In a single, calculated move, the reptile lunged onto the canoe, sinking its dagger-like teeth into Dr. Root's body. The canoe shook violently, but did not overturn. The beast didn't need to capsize it. It had already won. Within seconds, Dr. Root was ripped from his seat and dragged into the water. A scream echoed across the river. His wife, just yards behind, could only watch in horror as her husband disappeared beneath the surface. And then, silence. Panic set in. The guide and other members of the group searched frantically, scanning the water for any sign of movement, but the river had already swallowed him whole. In that instant, Dr. Root, a man who had spent decades fighting deadly diseases, saving lives, and training future doctors, had become nothing more than another victim of Africa's unforgiving wilderness. Word spread quickly. Authorities and local trackers launched a full-scale search, scouring the banks of the Limpopo River for any sign of his body. Days passed. Nothing. For 4 long days, hope dwindled. His wife clung to the desperate possibility that somehow he had survived. Then, on the 4th day, the river gave up its secret. Dr. Root's lifeless body was found near the site of the initial attack, his remains bearing the unmistakable signs of a crocodile's ferocious grip. The man, who had spent a lifetime fighting death, had lost his final battle to a silent, ancient killer. Dr. Richard K. Root was no ordinary man. He was a pioneer in infectious disease research, a respected educator, and a mentor to countless physicians across the world. His work in sepsis management and bacterial infections helped shape the modern medical understanding of some of the deadliest illnesses known to humankind. But even the greatest minds are no match for nature's raw and unpredictable brutality. His death sent shockwaves through the medical community. Tributes poured in from colleagues, students, and institutions worldwide. He had spent a lifetime saving lives, yet in the end, no one could save him. His tragic death serves as a haunting reminder of the unrelenting power of the natural world. In the wilderness, even the most accomplished, intelligent, and respected individuals are still just another part of the food chain. The Nile crocodile is a master of ambush, a prehistoric killer that has remained unchanged for millions of years. With crushing jaws, capable of exerting over 5,000 pounds of pressure per square inch, and the terrifying death roll, a brutal part, it is one of the most feared predators on the planet. Each year, hundreds of people fall victim to these ambush hunters, especially in the rivers of Botswana, Zimbabwe, and South Africa. But it is rare for someone as high-profile as Dr. Root to be among them. Perhaps that's what makes his death so haunting. It wasn't a disease, an accident, or old age that claimed him. It was something far more primal, a silent predator in the water, a moment of peace shattered in an instant, a man of science, swallowed by the wild. And in the end, no cure, no knowledge, no expertise could save him. For over a decade, Thailand's Koh Tao Island has been wrapped in an eerie mystery, earning it the grim nicknames Death Island and Murder Island after at least 11 tourists met untimely and unexplained ends. But despite its spooky reputation, 31-year-old Theo Bailey and his longtime girlfriend, Chantal Zeri, decided to roll the dice and take a vacation there in March 2024. The couple, seemingly unaware, or perhaps unfazed, by the island's dark history, were last seen enjoying drinks at a buzzing local bar. The party scene was straight out of a wild travel brochure. Tourists laughing over bucket-sized cocktails, some inhaling hippie crack, aka nitrous oxide, others dancing like they had no tomorrow. And then, just like a plot twist in a horror movie, Bailey vanished without a trace. One moment, he was part of the festivities. The next, he was gone. No one could pinpoint exactly when he slipped away, and whether he told anyone where he was going remains a mystery. But what's certain is that as the night faded and the music stopped, Bailey was nowhere to be found. The search for him ended the next afternoon, but not in the way anyone had hoped. Instead of a sheepish, hungover Bailey stumbling back with a wild story to tell, his lifeless body was found lying in a shallow drainage ditch near the Rocktopus Diving Center by Siri Beach. From the state of things, it was clear he had been there for hours, meaning he likely died while the party was still raging on. Even eerier, his phone was missing. Whether stolen or lost remains unclear. Authorities wasted no time launching an investigation, blocking off the area to preserve evidence while forensic experts combed through the scene. Bailey's body was transported to a hospital for a detailed examination. Yet, frustratingly, the results of his autopsy have yet to be made public. And then came the head-scratcher. Despite the ominous circumstances surrounding his disappearance and death, Koh Tao Police Superintendent Lieutenant Colonel Chuck Chae-Swetch told reporters that no foul play was suspected. According to the official version of events, Bailey simply wandered off, accidentally fell into a shallow waterway, and tragically lost his life. With no signs of violence and no arrests made, the case was quickly ruled an unfortunate accident. While authorities seemed content with their conclusion, Bailey's girlfriend was left shattered. Heartbroken and grieving, she took to social media with an emotional tribute, calling him her best friend, her angel, and the love of her life. 10 years together would never be enough, she wrote, promising to carry his memory with her forever. She reminisced about their silly adventures and cherished moments, a heartbreaking reminder that her world had changed overnight. But outside of her grief, whispers of conspiracy swirled through online forums and expat communities. Koh Tao, after all, has a murky past riddled with unsolved deaths, suspicious disappearances, and allegations of cover-ups. Some believe the island's powerful local figures have a vested interest in keeping its lucrative tourism industry untouched by scandal, brushing such cases under the rug to avoid bad press. Could Bailey's case be another one of those conveniently closed files, or was it truly just a tragic accident? In the end, the truth about what really happened to Theo Bailey may never be known. Koh Tao's shadowy reputation remains intact, and for every question that lingers, there are no real answers. Tourists still flock to its sun-kissed shores, blissfully unaware, or choosing to ignore, the eerie legacy that lingers beneath the paradise exterior. Perhaps some stories are meant to stay buried, much like the secrets of Death Island itself. On a chilling summer night in 1967, the tranquil beauty of Montana's Glacier National Park became the backdrop for a nightmare. Two young women, Julie Helgeson and Michelle Coons, both 19 and seasonal lodge employees, met a tragic end in separate grizzly bear attacks. What should have been peaceful overnight backpacking trips with friends turned into a harrowing ordeal that would forever change the park's history. On August 12th, Helgeson and Coons set out on separate hikes, eager to explore the park's awe-inspiring landscapes. Glacier was renowned for its rugged beauty, but unbeknownst to the women, danger was lurking nearby. For weeks, grizzlies had been prowling campsites and lodges, drawn by improperly stored food left by careless visitors. In some cases, tourists had even fed the bears to snap photographs, creating a perilous situation where the lines between human and wild became dangerously blurred. Back then, there were no bear-proof garbage bins or widespread warnings, leaving visitors vulnerable to the unpredictable wilderness. Under the starlit sky, neither group had any inkling of the terror that was about to unfold. In the early hours of the morning, Helgeson and her friend were startled awake by the sound of a grizzly sniffing at their sleeping bags. Frozen in fear, they attempted to play dead, a common survival tactic. However, the bear was undeterred. It attacked both of them before dragging Helgeson into the forest as her screams pierced the stillness. A frantic search party located her hours later, grievously injured. Despite their best efforts to save her, she succumbed to her injuries before reaching the hospital. Koons and her group had an equally horrifying encounter. As they prepared dinner at their campsite, a grizzly suddenly appeared, raiding their supplies. Believing the bear had satisfied its hunger, the group decided to move to a nearby beach to sleep, hoping to avoid further trouble. But their reprieve was short-lived. At 4:30 a.m., the grizzly returned with renewed aggression. While Koon's friend scrambled up nearby trees, she was unable to escape. The bear mauled her savagely, severing her arm in the attack. Although her friends eventually reached help, it was too late. Koons succumbed to her injuries before rescuers could arrive. The fact that these horrifying incidents occurred on the same night in different parts of the park sent shockwaves through the nation. The deaths of Helgeson and Koons exposed glaring gaps in the park's safety protocols. At the time, little was done to educate visitors on the dangers of attracting wildlife, and the lack of proper food storage measures made encounters with bears far more likely. The tragedy served as a wake-up call, prompting Glacier National Park and other wilderness areas to implement critical safety measures. Bear-proof garbage cans, strict food storage rules, and educational campaigns about wildlife safety became standard practices, aiming to prevent such disasters in the future. While the immediate aftermath of the attacks was filled with grief and shock, the legacy of that fateful night reminds us of nature's unpredictability. The events showed the delicate balance required to coexist with the wild. For all its breathtaking beauty, Glacier National Park remains a domain where humans are visitors and wildlife reigns supreme. The deaths of Helgeson and Koons revealed the need for both respect and caution when venturing into the untamed wilderness. Decades later, the memory of that tragic night in Glacier National Park remains etched in the collective consciousness. It is a haunting tale of nature's raw power and the fragility of human life when faced with its ferocity. A seasoned safari ranger, a towering beast in a violent rage, and a tragic ending no one saw coming. In December 2018, Madikwe Game Reserve in South Africa became the scene of a horrifying tragedy when a bull elephant, overcome with uncontrollable aggression, broke through a fence and stormed into a tourist area at Leopard Rock Lodge. Mark Lautenbach, a highly respected guide, wildlife photographer, and one of the most skilled rangers in the country, stepped forward to defuse the situation. But in the unforgiving world of the wild, even the most experienced hands can be powerless against nature's fury. The elephant, a 6-ton bull in musth, a state of heightened aggression caused by surging testosterone levels, was in no mood to be confronted. Witnesses say the massive creature fixated on Mark and, within seconds, charged with deadly intent. The ground trembled under its weight as it bore down on him. Before anyone could react, Mark was struck and trampled repeatedly, suffering catastrophic injuries. Musth makes bull elephants some of the most dangerous animals on Earth, flooding them with up to 6 times their normal testosterone levels, turning them into unstoppable forces of rage. Even female elephants in heat aren't safe during this period, let alone a human trying to intervene. One local expert, speaking under anonymity, described the scene with chilling clarity. Mark was one of the best, a man who understood the wild like few others, but this was something no one could stop. That elephant had made up its mind. Despite Mark's experience and knowledge, nothing could be done once the attack began. The beast left destruction in its wake before rangers made the grim decision to put it down, fearing it would strike again. For the safari community, Mark's loss was more than just a tragedy. It was a stark reminder that no matter how much we learn about nature, it remains an unpredictable, merciless force. 17-year-old Mike Mansholt was the kind of teenager who craved adventure. Whether it was paddling through the rugged waters of the Yukon River with his dad or setting off on solo trips, he lived for the thrill. So when he jetted off to Malta in the summer of 2016, it was supposed to be another exciting chapter in his journey toward independence. This was his first vacation alone. No parents, no family, just him, his rented bike, and a GoPro to capture every moment. His girlfriend was also in Malta for a language course, and they enjoyed a few fun-filled days together before she flew back to Germany. But Mike wasn't done exploring. With his gray backpack, a few €100, a power bank, a straw hat, and his trusty GoPro, he was ready to make the most of his time. On the morning of July 18, 2016, he sent his dad a WhatsApp voice message, chatting about the steep roads and promising to send a photo soon. Then he set off on his rented bike. That picture never came. A day passed. Mike didn't return his bike. By July 22nd, he missed his flight back home to Germany. Alarm bells started ringing. His family reported him missing, and a frantic search began. 8 days later, on July 26th, his body was found at the base of Dingley Cliffs, a staggering 29-meter drop, about the height of an 11-story building. His rented bike dangled from a bush above, while his sunglasses and shoes were scattered nearby. But something was missing. His backpack, his GoPro, and his other belongings had vanished. Authorities quickly labeled it an accident, claiming Mike had fallen. His father, Bernd Mansholt, was taken to the scene, where he was told Mike had broken his back in 2 places. The grief was unbearable, but at least the family had some closure, or so they thought. When Bernd visited the morgue, expecting to confirm the details of his son's tragic fall, a disturbing truth emerged. There were no fractures on Mike's body. The bike, supposedly involved in a high fall, had only a flat tire and a slightly misaligned seat, hardly the damage one would expect from such a great height. Then came the even more shocking revelation. Mike's organs were missing. When his body was returned to Germany for a second autopsy, it was discovered that only his left kidney, diaphragm, spleen, and large intestine remained. His body weighed just 32 kilograms, 70 pounds, and despite Maltese authorities insisting he had been embalmed, German specialists found no evidence of it. Even more bizarrely, there were no signs of rodent bites or natural decomposition that would explain the missing organs. The contradictions kept piling up, and with each answer more questions arose. Bernd pushed for the truth, but Maltese authorities remained tight-lipped, insisting a tourist must have stolen Mike's belongings and brushing off any suspicions. It wasn't until April 2018, nearly 2 years later, that Bernd was finally given access to the full case file. Yet, the official conclusion remained unchanged. Mike had simply fallen. German prosecutors suggested trees might have softened the impact of his fall, explaining the lack of severe injuries. But this still didn't explain the missing organs or the conflicting reports. Determined to uncover the truth, Bernd returned to Malta time and time again, demanding answers. In 2021, he even took legal action to push for a European investigation order. And yet, to this day, the mystery remains. What really happened to Mike Mansholt? In the summer of 2011, a group of British teenagers embarked on a month-long Arctic adventure in the icy wilderness of Svalbard, Norway. Organized by the British Schools Exploring Society, BISIS, the expedition promised an unforgettable journey, an opportunity to study the effects of climate change, bond with new friends, and possibly witness the majestic polar bear in its natural habitat. Tragically, what was meant to be an awe-inspiring encounter with nature turned into a nightmare, claiming the life of 17-year-old Horatio Chappell, a bright young man with aspirations of becoming a doctor. Horatio was one of 80 students on the trip, filled with excitement and curiosity about the stark beauty of the Arctic landscape. The participants had been assured of stringent safety measures, including tripwires set to trigger small explosive mines around campsites, pen flares to deter bears, and a firearm carried by an adult group leader. For many of the teenagers, this journey represented both adventure and discovery in one of the world's most remote and striking environments. However, the expedition's safety preparations were far from foolproof. Shortly after arriving on the icy terrain, the group discovered troubling shortcomings in their equipment. There weren't enough pen flares to distribute among the participants, and some of the tripwires, crucial for detecting and deterring bears, were malfunctioning. Adding to the concern, the firearm assigned to the group leader was an antiquated rifle. In the early hours of August 5th, disaster struck. A starving polar bear, driven by desperation in a rapidly changing ecosystem, entered the campsite undetected. The predator approached the tents where the teenagers slept, its hunger overriding any instinct to avoid humans. The bear tore into Horatio's tent, launching a frenzied attack. One of Horatio's companions was bitten on the head before the bear turned its fury on Horatio. In the chaos, Horatio was dragged from the tent and fatally mauled. The campsite erupted in panic as the bear continued its rampage. 4 other members of the expedition were seriously injured, including 2 adult leaders who scrambled to stop the attack. The leaders wrestled with the unreliable rifle, desperately attempting to neutralize the threat. After a tense and prolonged struggle, they managed to shoot and kill the bear, but the damage was done. Horatio Chappell had lost his life, and the survivors were left to grapple with both their physical injuries and the emotional scars of the ordeal. The tragedy sent shockwaves through the international community and raised pressing questions about the adequacy of safety measures in high-risk environments. The expedition, meant to inspire and educate, had been undermined by critical oversights. Faulty equipment and insufficient training had left the group vulnerable to the very dangers they sought to study. For Horatio's family and friends, the loss was unbearable. A bright and compassionate young man with a future brimming with potential, Horatio had been on the cusp of adulthood, eager to make a difference in the world. His death became a permanent reminder of the unpredictability of nature and the responsibilities owed to those who venture into its domain. Horatio's story remains a somber chapter in the history of exploration, a testament to both the allure and the peril of untamed landscapes. For those who knew him, his memory endures as a symbol of youthful ambition and a love for discovery. For the rest of us, his story serves as a poignant reminder of the fragile line between adventure and tragedy in the face of nature's raw power. The African wilderness is breathtaking, yet unforgiving. One wrong step, one miscalculation, and the wild reminds you who is truly in control. In 2018, a 22-year-old woman learned this in the most horrifying way imaginable. What was meant to be a casual visit to a South African game reserve turned into a nightmare, a chilling moment where human curiosity met nature's raw and lethal power. She wasn't supposed to be there. The woman, whose identity was never publicly revealed, had accompanied a friend to a lion sanctuary on the 3,200-acre Dinokeng Big 5 game reserve, just outside Pretoria. The visit was informal. She was tagging along while her friend interviewed the camp's manager for an assignment. The reserve was home to Kevin Richardson, the so-called Lion Whisperer, a world-renowned conservationist who had forged an incredible bond with some of the most powerful predators on Earth. For the woman, this was a rare chance to see lions up close, majestic, awe-inspiring creatures in their natural environment. But what she didn't know was that something was already in motion, something deadly. On that fateful day, Kevin Richardson had taken 3 of his lions out for their routine walk. It was part of their exercise and stimulation regimen, a controlled interaction between man and beast that Richardson had done countless times before. Everything seemed normal. The lions, powerful yet familiar, strolled through the reserve as Richardson and a colleague monitored them closely. Then, everything changed in an instant. A lioness, sleek and muscular, locked eyes on her target. An impala, a swift and delicate antelope, had entered the clearing. The lioness's instincts kicked in. Without hesitation, she exploded into a full-speed chase, her powerful muscles rippling as she pursued the terrified prey. But somewhere along that pursuit, the chase veered off course. The impala darted, zigzagging through the landscape. The lioness, fully consumed by the thrill of the hunt, followed, covering a staggering 2 to 2.5 kilometers in mere moments. And then, she encountered something unexpected. The young woman. She had been standing outside the fenced area of the camp, blissfully unaware of the approaching danger. She and her friend had been snapping photos, capturing the raw beauty of the African wilderness. She never saw it coming. The lioness did. There was no time to react. Before the woman could turn, before she could even scream, the lioness struck. With a force that could shatter bones, the massive predator pounced, knocking her to the ground. The world went silent for a split second, then erupted into shrieks of terror. Her friend stood frozen in horror, watching the attack unfold. The lioness, driven by primal instinct, did what apex predators do. Teeth sank into flesh, claws tore through skin. It was over in moments. Her lifeless body lay still, the golden brown predator towering over her, breathing heavily, blood staining its powerful jaws. The African bush, once peaceful, was now eerily silent. Paramedics raced to the scene, their sirens piercing through the stillness of the reserve. Desperate efforts were made to save her, but the injuries were catastrophic. Nick Dahlman, a paramedic spokesman, would later describe the scene as horrific. The injuries were very severe, he said. It was a deadly attack. Her friend, though physically unharmed, was in a state of complete shock. The nightmare had played out right in front of her eyes, and she could do nothing to stop it. Kevin Richardson was devastated. This wasn't a rogue attack. The lioness hadn't hunted the woman out of malice. She had simply been in the wrong place at the wrong time. Richardson took to social media to express his sorrow. "I am devastated, and my heart goes out to this young woman's family," he wrote. He explained that his team had sent out notifications that they were walking the lions that day, as they always did. The lioness had been chasing an impala. This was not supposed to happen. Dinokeng management was quick to clarify. The lion involved in this fatality was not one of the wild, free-roaming lions of the Dinokeng Game Reserve, but that didn't matter. A woman was dead. The tragedy cast a dark shadow over Richardson's sanctuary. His reputation as the lion whisperer, a man who had spent his life building trust with these apex predators, was suddenly under scrutiny. Just weeks before the attack, supermodel Cara Delevingne had posed with one of Richardson's lions for a glamorous photo shoot at the sanctuary. In a heartfelt post, she had called the experience humbling, marveling at the chance to see such magnificent creatures up close. Now, that same world of intimate encounters and breathtaking beauty had revealed its darker, more brutal side. Visitors still come to Richardson's camp. They still take safari drives, still pay to volunteer and experience the thrill of being near some of the world's most powerful predators. But the woman's death serves as a chilling warning. In the wild, even the most experienced handlers know, lions do not reason. They do not hesitate. They do not forgive mistakes. One moment of distraction, one misstep, one wrong place at the wrong time, and in the blink of an eye, you become the hunted. Kyle Barrow was the kind of guy who lived for good times, always up for a laugh, never one to turn down an adventure with friends. But despite his outgoing nature, the 27-year-old from Oldham, Manchester had never traveled outside the UK, not once. He had spent years dreaming about packing his bags and heading somewhere exciting, but life always seemed to get in the way. That was until a spontaneous opportunity came knocking, thanks to his best friend of 10 years, Cal. Was this trip planned months in advance? Absolutely not. It was a last minute, why not decision. The best kind, really. They weren't even sure why they picked Turkey of all places. Maybe it was the beaches. Maybe it was the adventure sports. Or maybe they just liked the sound of it. Either way, they were going, and they were going big. Jet skiing? Check. Parasailing? Definitely. Laughing until their stomachs hurt? Guaranteed. This was their chance to finally tick off some bucket list items and make memories they'd be telling stories about for years. On June 6, 2023, Kyle and Cal landed in Turkey, buzzing with excitement. They headed straight to Manavgat, a place famous for its waterfalls, scenic views, and just the right amount of chaos for two guys looking for an adventure. The plan was simple: have the time of their lives. The next day, in true tourist fashion, they decided to explore the town like locals, on mopeds. Seemed like a great idea at the time. There was just one small problem. Kyle had never ridden one before. No experience, no training, and, crucially, no helmet. But when you're on holiday, logic often takes a back seat to excitement. So, off they went, cruising through the streets, the warm breeze in their hair, feeling like kings of the road. Cal led the way, Kyle followed closely behind, and for a while, everything was perfect. At one point, Cal checked his mirror and saw Kyle laughing. Clearly, he was loving every second. But when he glanced back again, Kyle was gone. Just gone. Panic set in. Cal immediately turned around and retraced their path, his heart racing. And then he saw it. Kyle, lying motionless in the road, blood pooling around him. It was a sight Cal would never forget. His best friend, who had been laughing just moments ago, was now at the center of a nightmare. A lorry had stopped nearby, leading Cal to suspect it had something to do with the crash. But the details were hazy. What exactly had happened? Had Kyle lost control? Had he hit something? The questions raced through Cal's mind as he ran to his friend's side, screaming for help. Cars passed by, but no one stopped. It was as if the world had kept moving, while theirs had come to a standstill. Then, finally, an ambulance arrived. Relief, right? Not quite. In what can only be described as a shocking moment, a paramedic took one look at Kyle and then drove off without helping him. Yes, drove off. Cal couldn't believe what he was seeing. He was left on the roadside, helpless, holding on to his best friend and praying for another ambulance to show up. 15 agonizing minutes later, help finally arrived, and Kyle was rushed to the hospital. Doctors did everything they could, but his injuries were severe. Cal, pacing the hospital halls, made the gut-wrenching call to Kyle's family, hoping for a miracle. But despite all efforts, Kyle didn't make it. A post-mortem conducted by Dr. Emil Salmo confirmed multiple injuries, including a fractured spine. Local police claimed Kyle had crashed into a palm tree, something Cal immediately doubted. It didn't add up. Whatever had truly happened that day remained unclear. The only certainty was that Kyle's life had been tragically cut short. Getting him home wasn't easy. His family, girlfriend Hannah, and friends had to crowdfund to cover the cost of flying him back and arranging his funeral. The financial burden was heavy, but their determination was stronger. They weren't about to let Kyle's story end without a proper farewell. Tributes poured in from all corners. Friends described him as a legend, the guy who brought everyone together, the one who could turn even the dullest night into an unforgettable one. Some even got tattoos in his honor, because what better way to keep his memory alive than by permanently inking it on their skin? Kyle's trip was supposed to be about adventure, laughter, and crossing things off his bucket list. Instead, it became a heartbreaking reminder of how fragile life can be. But if there's one thing his friends and family made sure of, it's that Kyle's legacy didn't end on that road in Turkey. It lives on in the stories, the laughter, and the memories of a man who truly knew how to live. On a bitterly cold December in 1915, a remote village in Hokkaido, Japan, became the site of the worst animal attack in the nation's history. The Sankabetsu brown bear incident left 7 people dead and 3 injured over a span of 5 harrowing days. The terror began with a lone Ussuri brown bear, a massive and formidable predator native to Hokkaido, waking early from hibernation. Its hunger and aggression would devastate the quiet settlement, leaving a dark legacy that still haunts the region. The Ussuri brown bear is one of the largest bear subspecies, rivaling even the Kodiak bear in size. These animals have long inspired fear in Japan, where tales of their ferocity are ingrained in local lore. During the early 20th century, such fears were not unfounded. Over 141 people were killed in bear attacks on Hokkaido between 1900 and 1950. Yet, nothing could prepare the villagers of Sankabetsu for the nightmare that began in mid-November 1915 when a large male bear first appeared near the Akita family's farm. It raided their corn supplies but left without causing harm. Hoping to drive the bear away for good, the family enlisted 2 experienced mataji, traditional winter hunters, to track and kill it. Though they wounded the bear during an encounter 10 days later, a snowstorm forced the hunters to abandon their pursuit, mistakenly believing the injury would deter the animal from returning. They could not have been more wrong. On December 9th, the bear stormed the Ota family home in broad daylight. Inside, Abe Mayu was babysitting an infant while her husband worked in the fields. The bear attacked without warning, killing the baby instantly with a bite to the head. Mayu fought back, throwing firewood at the massive predator, but it overpowered her, dragging her into the forest. When her husband returned, he found the home drenched in blood, his wife gone. The following morning, a search party discovered Mayu's partially devoured body buried in snow beneath a tree. The discovery confirmed the bear's growing boldness and bloodlust. That evening, armed villagers gathered at the Ota home, prepared for the bear's return. The predator did reappear, triggering chaos. Amid the panic, only a single shot was fired, and the bear escaped unscathed. Nearby, the Miyuki family and other villagers sought refuge in a reinforced home, believing they were safer in numbers. Guards were posted, but when news of the bear's presence at the Ota home reached them, most of the guards left to investigate, leaving only one man to protect the women and children. What happened next was a scene of unimaginable horror. As the Miyuki women prepared a late meal, the bear crashed through a window and plunged the house into chaos. In the ensuing melee, flames were extinguished, plunging the room into darkness. The bear attacked indiscriminately. Yayo, the family matriarch, attempted to flee with her children but stumbled when her terrified young son clung to her legs. Though the bear initially targeted them, it turned its focus to the lone guard, allowing Yayo to escape. Tragically, others were not as fortunate. 2 young boys were killed, and a pregnant woman was savagely mauled despite her desperate pleas for mercy. Her remains, partially consumed, were a grim testament to the bear's violence. A group of armed men soon arrived, but were unable to save those inside. They considered burning the house to kill the bear, but hesitated, fearing for any survivors. Attempts to ambush the bear failed, as confusion among the hunters allowed it to escape yet again. Among the villagers, a plea for help was made to Yamamoto Heikichi, a skilled bear hunter with a fearsome reputation. On December 13th, Yamamoto and a group of 60 hunters tracked the bear to a snowy ridge. Bloodstains revealed that the bear had been wounded again during a prior encounter. Yamamoto's experience paid off. He located the bear resting under a Japanese oak tree and closed in silently. From just 20 yards away, he fired 2 precise shots, one to the heart and one to the head, finally ending the animal's rampage. The bear, later measured at nearly 9 feet tall and weighing 750 pounds, was a formidable predator, even by Ussuri brown bear standards. The aftermath of the incident left scars that would linger for generations. Villagers abandoned Sankabetsu, unable to bear the memories of the tragedy. Some survivors, like Okawa Haruyoshi, the mayor's son, vowed vengeance. Haruyoshi became a renowned bear hunter, claiming over 100 kills in his lifetime. A dream birthday, a peaceful river safari, and then pure terror erupting from the depths. It was December 1st, 2018, Kristen Yaldor's 37th birthday. She and her husband, Ryan, had set out for what was supposed to be a relaxing canoe trip down Zimbabwe's Zambezi River, a place known for its breathtaking beauty and rich wildlife. The guided tour promised calm waters and stunning photo opportunities near Victoria Falls, but nature had other plans. They had barely begun when one of the guides called out, a warning lost in the stillness of the river. Something massive surged from below. In an instant, their canoe lurched violently, flipping over as if it had been struck by an underwater explosion. Before Kristen could react, she was in the water. Gasping, disoriented, she surfaced just in time to see Ryan desperately swimming toward the shore. She was almost there too. just 5 strokes away from safety. But then it happened. A force like a wrecking ball clamped onto her right leg and yanked her under. The pain hadn't hit yet. Shock, adrenaline, survival instincts. The water churned as the unseen monster rag-dolled her side to side, its massive jaws crushing down like a hydraulic press. She had dived with sharks before. She knew not to panic. Hold your breath. Stay calm. She reached for the creature's jaw, her fingers brushing against its rough, prehistoric skin. For a moment, it loosened its grip. Was she free? Had she scared it off? Then, agony. Kristen clawed her way to the riverbank, her broken leg sending white-hot pain through her body. The severity of her injuries was unknown, but the crimson stain spreading into the water told her everything she needed to know. A guide wrapped a tourniquet around her leg. Ryan, hands shaking, tried to call for help. Across the river, tourists, safe in their vehicles, had stopped watching animals. Now, they were watching her. Kristen borrowed Ryan's phone. She dialed home. It was 2 a.m. in Florida, but her mother answered. "Do you want me to sing you happy birthday?" "No, Mom," Kristen whispered. "I got attacked by a hippo." For those who have never seen a hippo up close, its bite is the stuff of nightmares. Its jaws open to a horrifying 150-degree angle, revealing 3 dozen dagger-like teeth, including massive canines designed to crush bone and tear through flesh. A hippo's bite force is strong enough to snap a canoe in half, and it had nearly done just that. Kristen survived. But the scars, physical and psychological, would last forever. The Zambezi had given her a birthday she would never forget, and a reason to never trust calm waters again. In the summer of 2017, Bakari Henderson was ready to celebrate, big time. Fresh out of the University of Arizona with a degree in finance and entrepreneurship, this 22-year-old from Austin, Texas, was about to launch his own clothing line. But before diving into the business world, he wanted one last carefree adventure. And what better place than Zakynthos, Greece? This dreamy island in the Ionian Sea was famous for its crystal-clear waters, hidden cliff diving spots, and legendary nightlife. It was the perfect setting for a well-earned vacation with his friends. One last epic trip before adulthood came knocking. From the moment they arrived, Bakari and his crew were living it up. They spent their days exploring secret cliff-jumping spots, soaking up the sun, and making the kind of memories that last a lifetime. Bakari was the glue that held the group together, the guy who always had a smile, always had your back, and could turn any situation into a good time. But as much as he loved traveling, there was something deeper to it. Being a young black man in America came with its own set of challenges, but overseas, he felt free, like he could just exist without worrying about the invisible rules that seemed to follow him back home. One night, after another adrenaline-fueled day, Bakari and his friends decided to hit up Lagana's, the island's ultimate party zone. This place was packed with bars, clubs, and tourists from all over the world, all looking for a night they'd never forget. The energy was electric, and the group was ready to let loose. At one of the clubs, a Serbian waitress invited them inside, and Bakari struck up a casual conversation with her. They even took a selfie together, just an innocent moment, or so it seemed. But not everyone saw it that way. A nearby Serbian man took offense, his face twisting with anger. He couldn't believe she was talking to a black man, and he wasn't about to let it slide. Things escalated fast. The man started shouting, his rage attracting attention. More men, mostly Serbians, along with a Greek and a British citizen, quickly got involved. One threw a punch, then another. Suddenly, Bakari was fighting off multiple attackers. Realizing he was outnumbered, he tried to escape, sprinting out of the club, but they chased him down. In a horrifying scene caught on CCTV, about 10 men surrounded him, beating him mercilessly. They punched and kicked his head repeatedly, never giving him a chance to defend himself. By the time his friends reached him, it was too late. Bakari was gone. In the aftermath, 9 men were identified and put on trial. But justice? That was another story. In 2018, none were convicted of murder. Instead, 6 were found guilty of the lesser charge of deadly assault, and 3 walked free. For Bakari's family, it was a devastating blow. A Greek prosecutor agreed and called for a retrial, something possible in Greece, where double jeopardy laws don't apply as they do in the U.S. Even Kamala Harris took notice, discussing the case with Greece's prime minister. But the retrial faced delay after delay, and by 2022 the verdict remained unchanged. 5 of the convicted men had already been released, and the last one soon followed. For Bakari's loved ones, the fight for justice continues, but the question remains, how could something so senseless happen, and how could those responsible walk away so easily? In the annals of wilderness exploration, few tragedies have left as haunting a mark as the 2023 grizzly bear attack in Banff National Park. While backcountry treks are meant to inspire awe and connection with nature, this particular journey ended in devastating loss, cementing itself as one of the most harrowing events in the park's modern history. Doug Inglis and Jenny Gussa, both 62, were seasoned adventurers and devoted naturalists. The couple, accompanied by their beloved border collie, Tris, set out for a week-long trek in the rugged Red Deer River Valley, an isolated corner of Banff. Known for their meticulous preparation and respect for wildlife, Doug and Jenny embodied the spirit of the park's wilderness, experienced, cautious, and deeply in tune with the land. On the evening of September 29, 2023, they arrived at their campsite after a long day of hiking. As was their routine, they secured their food cache safely away from their tent, prepared a simple meal, and likely retreated into their tent to read and relax. The couple sent a satellite message to family, noting a delay but reassuring them that all was well. But by the early hours of the next morning, a horrifying reality had unfolded. A grizzly bear, old and frail but still dangerously powerful, attacked their campsite. In those final, desperate moments, Doug and Jenny managed to send a 3-word message from their satellite device: "Bear, attack, bad." It was a cry for help that carried the weight of unimaginable terror and impending tragedy. The alert reached Parks Canada, whose specialized wildlife response team sprang into action. However, poor weather conditions in the remote valley grounded helicopters, forcing rescuers to navigate the dark, rugged terrain on foot. They arrived at the site after midnight, only to find the worst. Doug, Jenny, and Tris had all been killed. As the team secured the area, they encountered the grizzly responsible for the attack. The bear charged, and in the interest of safety, it was shot and killed. A subsequent necropsy revealed the bear to be an aged female, around 25 years old, an outlier in the wilderness. Her teeth were worn down, and her fat stores were dangerously low, signs of a long struggle to survive. Despite Doug and Jenny's adherence to safety protocols, including properly storing their food, the bear's desperate condition had turned their campsite into a fatal encounter. The tragedy was devastating for the close-knit community of outdoor enthusiasts and the broader public. Doug and Jenny were not reckless newcomers to the wilderness. They were exemplars of responsible outdoor recreation. Their deaths underscored the unpredictable and often unforgiving nature of wildlife interactions, even for the most prepared and experienced individuals. For those who knew them, Doug and Jenny were more than their final moments. They were lifelong adventurers, partners in both work and passion, who found joy in the vast landscapes of Canada's national parks. Tris, their loyal companion, was a testament to their love for animals and the bond they shared with nature. The legacy of Doug and Jenny's story is twofold. On one hand, it is a reminder of the risks inherent in exploring wild spaces. On the other, it is a call to cherish those who embrace the outdoors with reverence and care. For Doug and Jenny, nature was not merely a backdrop, but a shared passion that defined their lives. A split-second decision, a predator lying in wait, a tragedy that unfolded in front of horrified onlookers. On a scorching day in July 2016, a family's trip to Badaling Wildlife Park in Beijing took a terrifying and deadly turn. The park, known for its drive-through safari experience, allows visitors to observe Siberian tigers up close from the supposed safety of their vehicles. But one simple mistake, one moment of letting their guard down turned a routine drive into a horrific nightmare caught on camera. It all began with an argument. Inside their car, tensions flared between a woman, later identified as Zhao, and her companions. Frustrated, she did something unthinkable. She opened the car door and stepped out into the tiger enclosure, oblivious to the danger lurking just beyond the tree line. She barely had time to react. From the shadows, a massive Siberian tiger exploded into motion. With lightning speed, the 400-pound predator lunged, clamping its powerful jaws onto Zhao's body and dragging her away before anyone could intervene. Screams filled the air. Panic erupted inside the car. A man and another woman, later identified as Zhao's mother, jumped out, desperate to save her. But in the wild, no act of heroism goes unpunished. As Zhao's mother sprinted toward her daughter, a second tiger struck. This one was even faster, stronger, and more brutal. The massive beast took her down with bone-crushing force, mauling her in front of the helpless onlookers. Unlike Zhao, she would not survive. Surveillance cameras captured everything. The footage, later leaked onto social media, showed the horrifying attack unfold in real time. The sheer force of the tiger's ambush was enough to leave even seasoned wildlife experts stunned. Viewers watched in disbelief as the animals dragged their victims into the underbrush, disappearing from sight. By the time park officials and emergency responders arrived, it was too late. Zhao, though critically injured, had miraculously survived the attack. Her mother, however, had been mauled to death, her selfless attempt to save her daughter costing her everything. In the aftermath, questions swirled. Park rules clearly stated that visitors must remain inside their vehicles at all times, windows up, doors locked. Yet, Zhao claimed she never knew what she had signed before entering the park. She later stated that she believed the form was a standard entry registration, not an agreement that explicitly warned of the danger. To make matters worse, Zhao accused the park of failing to intervene. She alleged that a park official, stationed in a nearby vehicle, failed to come to her rescue, a claim that sparked outrage across China. The tragedy served as a grim reminder of the unforgiving nature of the wild. Siberian tigers are among the most lethal predators on Earth, capable of taking down prey many times their size. Once they lock onto a target, there is no escape. A simple mistake, a fatal miscalculation, and a mother who gave her life in a desperate bid to save her daughter from the jaws of death. The tiger enclosure at Battling Wildlife Park remains open, but those who pass through now do so with a chilling awareness. One wrong move could mean the difference between life and death. In November 2014, 23-year-old Sylvia Rochelle was finally living her dream. Born and raised in Lublin, Poland, she had spent years fantasizing about visiting Spain. She wasn't just a casual admirer. She had passionately studied the language, eagerly waiting for the day she could stroll through the Spanish streets and immerse herself in the culture she adored. And now, that day had arrived. Seville, the heart of Andalusia, was everything she had imagined. Charming, vibrant, and filled with history. But for Sylvia, this wasn't just a quick vacation. As a dedicated medical student on an Erasmus scholarship at the University of Almeria, she had bigger plans. She dreamed of one day moving to Spain and working as a nurse. This trip was just a glimpse into her future. Sylvia was radiant. Long black hair, striking blue eyes, and a smile that could light up a room. She was the kind of person who was always up for an adventure, always eager to experience life to the fullest. So when she found herself at Puente de Triana, one of Seville's most famous landmarks, she knew she had to capture the moment. The 19th century metal arch bridge offered breathtaking views of the city, making it a prime spot for tourists. And what do tourists love more than anything? Selfies. Sylvia was no different. Wanting the perfect shot, she climbed onto the metal ledge of the bridge, carefully positioning herself for that one unforgettable photo. But in a heartbreaking instant, everything changed. As she balanced on the edge, her foot slipped. Before she could react, she fell backward, plunging 15 feet onto the concrete footing below. Bystanders gasped in horror, immediately calling for an ambulance. Paramedics arrived within minutes, but the situation was dire. Sylvia had suffered a fractured skull and was already in cardiac arrest. They managed to revive her and rushed her to the Hospital of Traumatology, fighting to save her life. But her injuries were too severe. Despite their best efforts, Sylvia Rachel passed away, leaving behind shattered dreams and a heartbroken family. Her parents were devastated. Their daughter had been so full of life, ambition, and love for Spain, only for her journey to be tragically cut short. But Sylvia's story didn't just leave her family grieving, it also left the city of Seville reflecting on safety measures. Her accident prompted authorities to rethink pedestrian safety, particularly along the city's scenic boulevards. While nothing could undo the tragedy, her story served as a reminder of the risks people take for the perfect photo. In the end, Sylvia's dream of experiencing Spain came true, but at a heartbreaking cost.